Hello everyone. So I know it's been a bit longer than you may have expected, and the reason for that is because I have been absolutely losing my mind, and that is because for the past week or so I have been completely unable to fall asleep at night. So I'm sure you can imagine that falling asleep around 10 and 11 a.m. and waking up at 6 to 8 p.m. and staying up all night against your will is it doesn't make for the best motivation to come back and make a video. But I finally fixed things by doing the dreaded 24-hour challenge and pulling an all-nighter and successfully surviving the day. So now that I'm actually seeing the sun again, I figured it might be time to come back. I do want to say before I get into today, thank you guys so much for the insane amount of attention and support. I don't like to be the stereotypical content creator that's like, oh my god, I never thought that we would get to this point. Like, if I'm being realistic, I do have some faith in myself and thought that at some point I would start to form a community. I just was surprised that it's happened so fast. So, thank you guys a lot for that. It makes me feel like it's worth it to make these videos and try to get a positive message out there to help people. So, all that said, I'm going to try to tone today's video down just a little bit because the past couple of videos have been pretty long. So, I decided that I would just talk about whatever on this one. And the topic that I decided on was time passing and figuring out who you are. There was a comment on one of my videos. I think it was the video about femboys in public and insecurity, but it has since been deleted. But someone had said that it might not be the best idea to dress the way that I want on a college campus because maybe it's just not the right place or time for it. And I can understand where they're coming from. Given that they've deleted their comment, I'm imagining that they probably changed their mind, which is perfectly fine, and it's also fine to not have. The thing that I would like to get across is twofold. Firstly, in specifically a college environment, they will go a pretty long way to protect their students because you are paying thousands of dollars to be there. It makes sense that they would want to literally keep their investment safe. But the other side of that is that I would like to explain that as of right now, I would like to become a psychiatrist. That is the current career track that I'm on. And if I am to follow that, then that is a 12-year process, which means that I will not be starting my job until I am 30 years old. If I were to go by the metric that I am in an education setting and I can't do this, or to listen to others and what they say, or peer pressure, then I would not be able to be myself and be happy with who I am until I am 30 years of age. And I'm not saying that being in a school environment dressed femininely is the best idea. It's kind of a difficult thing for me to explain properly without sounding wrong, but I guess what I'm saying is that I'm literally going to be living on campus. Whenever I'm in med school, I'm going to be living at the med school. Whenever I'm in residency, there's a good chance that I'll be living somewhere in close proximity to the hospital. All of these points to get across the point that I should be able to live the way that I want to when I am not under the guise or rule of others. And even though I may be in a place and setting such as a college, if I'm in my dorm, then I should be allowed to dress the way that I want, so long as my dorm mate and I have agreed, and I'm not just not wearing any clothes, if you understand what I mean. But I can understand where this person is coming from, as they're saying it maybe out of fear of safety or out of fear of making people uncomfortable. For the safety metric, I think I'll be fine, and for the uncomfortability, that's just something that I feel like people should get used to, and I don't mean that in like a tough love concept. The way that I mean it is that whenever a woman, for example, wears a suit, most people, given not everyone, but most people don't have a problem with that. In the same metric, I don't think there should be a problem with guys wearing things such as skirts or just more feminine clothing or maybe a dress. And as long as it's not NSFW specifically, then I don't think it should be something that's not tolerated in these types of settings. Now, of course, as I just stated, there are outfits that are too risque or too far out there, and those shouldn't be worn in those types of settings. But in general, something that is common, everyday, regular fashion, just because it's feminine, does not mean that it should not be accepted in these settings. Now, of course, as I did state, there is a risk factor that people talk about, and there's kind of a difficult double-edged sword situation that I have to describe here. Firstly, I don't feel in fear of my safety because I know a little bit about this college's environment and how people are there, and the fact that, as I said, the college will generally go a long way to protect their students, and the fact that I, being a legal adult, am now pretty much responsible for my own decisions. So it is up to me to decide whether or not I think it's safe to go out wearing these types of clothes. And to me, I have reached the conclusion that I think it is. But for anyone at home that is in a situation that's different than mine, maybe you're at a school that's very not accepting. I'm not going to use the term homophobic because not all femboys are homosexual and clothing does not determine sexuality. But if you're in a setting that is not accepting of that, or you're in a place where you genuinely believe that you could be harmed, whether it's mentally, physically, or otherwise, you unfortunately should not go out dressed this way, because it's just better for your own safety. If your two options are to have to suppress who you really are or be able to live, then I personally believe that your safety should be valued far more than that. It's a terrible truth and a compromise that we should never have to make, but there just are places that it is more dangerous to do these types of things. As I stated though, as for me personally, it has reached the point in my life that this is now becoming my decision and my undertaking of my own, if that makes sense. But it's difficult to explain a new concept like this without it coming across as oppressive or forcing it on people, because people think there's a general stigma around a lot of people with different types of concepts. The most obvious one that I can think of personally is homosexuality, where people will often say, I don't mind if you're gay, just don't bring it around me. And there's kind of a similar attitude with femboys, with people that are at least not aggressive towards them, but they will generally say that I don't care if you're a femboy, just don't wear it around me, which is restricting one's identity, self, and expression, which I don't think I have to tell you in the United States is a violation of the First Amendment. And that is one of the core reasons why I believe that this can be pushed farther and more accepted in society. Now, of course, living in the United States is a lot different than many other countries, and I don't doubt that at some point, someone that does not live in the United States may see this, and your rules and statutes apply differently. But if you are someone who is of age, of good self-defense standing, I guess I would say that's a very bad phrase, but I think you can understand what I mean by that. If you're someone who is in a position where you believe it is safe to do so, and you are at the point that you know you can, then it's important to know the rules of your country, the laws, and how those can apply to things such as expressing your clothing or the way that you act, because there are countries that may have statutes against it, or ways that the government can work around it, loopholes to where they can find ways to get you in trouble for these things. So, of course, living in the United States, I can only speak for people living in the United States, as it is the only experience that I have. But I encourage you that if you do live somewhere else and you want to dress or act this way, but you know that there might be risks, it is very, very important to read up on these types of laws so that you know how to best defend yourself, both legally, morally, physically, any type of way. And I don't just want to speak about being a femboy, because that is not the only concept that is handled in this way. There are many, many different people and places and things and ideas and activities that are dealt with in the same way. Think about the amount of people that might doubt you a little bit whenever you say that you want to pursue something such as art or music or a job or certain field, you have to realize that these people simply are not you, and they can't tell you who you are. It was one of the best quotes that I've heard, and unfortunately, I really can't remember the channel that this guy had, but he had stated that you would get offended if someone assumed things about you that weren't true, such as what type of music you listen to, what type of things you like, what type of job you might want to have in the future. So if they offend you with things like that, and you believe that they're wrong, then why should they be able to tell you things such as how attractive you are, how capable you are, what potential you have in the future? These are things that they simply cannot judge and determine because they are not you. They don't have as much insight into yourself as you do. You're the only one that really knows how far you can go, and you're the only one that is either stopping yourself from getting there or getting yourself there in the first place. If you decide that you want to do something, such as learn to be a femboy, learn makeup, or maybe you want to learn how to play music, you want to learn how to draw, how to do art, or I don't know, you want to learn to breakdance because you're about to breakdance in the 2032 Olympics in Australia. Congratulations. But the important thing is that there's no point in holding out on doing these things because the time is going to pass anyways. If you sit there and tell yourself, I'd love to learn this, but it's going to take a long time, that's more insight than ever to start it. We only live, on average, about 80 years, and that's if you're living healthily and meeting actual life expectancy standards. Many of us might end up dying in our 70s, 60s, even younger, which is a depressing thing to say, I know, but I would rather be honest with you than be positive and endearing and say that you're going to live to 400. Well, that's what everyone wants. You have to be realistic about your life so that you understand how to best dictate the way that you live. So if you only live 80 years and you want to do something such as learning to sing, on average, most people say that it would take about 10 years to gain a mastery of singing. Well, if you put that off until you're 30 and then you start, by the time that you've mastered it, if you're consistent, you'll be 40 years old, which will be halfway through your life. If you spend time thinking about doing things and how you wish you could do them and you don't do them, that time is going to slip past you and those skills are going to slip away as well. And to draw this back to the concept of being a femboy, one of the aspects of being a femboy is, of course, beauty, which generally comes with being younger. That's just a thing about it. Now, of course, when you're older, you can look absolutely fantastic with or without makeup. You can still take care of your body. You can still dress these ways. But in general, at a younger age, people are considered to be more viable femboys, I guess would be the phrase. So, if we're going by that metric, then for someone like me personally, if I take absolute best care of myself, chances are that it's not going to be sustainable for me by the time I'm about 35. So if we again jump back to the statement of me trying to suppress myself because I'm in college or I'm in med school or I'm in residency, then by the time I'm 30, that would mean I have 5 years to truly be myself until my enjoyable aspect of my life is over, I guess. Which I'm not saying that everything about me is being a femboy. That's not the only part of myself, but it is one of the most vital points of my self-expression that I feel personally, and I have a deep connection to it. So for that reason, I don't want to skip out on my younger years being afraid of what other people think or what they're going to say or what they're going to do, because at the end of the day, it's just not worth it to listen to others if they're going to be that ignorant about it. I don't have time to wait on them to come around and be accepting of me. I have time to be myself and enjoy my life just as much as they do. You can love whatever you want. To not reiterate the same point 500 times, pretty much the thesis of this entire video is that time is extremely finite, and the amount of time that you put into something is not reversible. You can't undo the missed years or the years that you've spent on something. So spend it on something good. As Underscores once said, in their song Jeez Louise, which, by the way, literally made me cry some of the hardest that I've ever cried to any song. How can I repent for a life well spent? And that really hit me emotionally. And not to shill the album, but I highly, highly recommend it if you're someone that's LGBT, because there is a very, very dense layer of storytelling and lyricism throughout the entire album, and a lot of important themes that I think really connect. But my advertisement for good music out of the way, that's pretty much all I had to say today. I hope that you guys can understand what I mean by these things, and maybe can respect my decision to do these things. And again, I can't tell you who you are just as much as nobody can tell me who I am. So for that reason, if you think things apply to you differently, then apply them differently. I'm not the end-all be-all of what a femboy is. I'm just personally trying my best to help guide you guys and give a little bit of support and some pointers. But you know yourself best, and I know myself best, and that's really the most that we can do for each other. Thank you guys for watching this video. Anyone that stuck around since the last one, thank you just as much, doubly even. I'm very glad if you've found this channel and decided to stick around. As always, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, a story you want me to tell, or just anything else that you might want to say, you can say it in the comment section below, and I might talk about it in my next video. So, that being said, I'll see you guys pretty soon. Thank you.